This is a very special episode of the It Depends podcast because I get to record this live in San Francisco at Snowflake Summit 2026. My guest today is none other than Will Allen. Will, so happy to have you come to this episode and tell us about all these amazing new announcements and developments that we've been learning about. But before we jump in,
Yeah.
let's start with your introduction.
Well, first, thanks. It's so great to be here. So fun. The excitement of everyone, the
Yeah.
absolute buzz of thousands and thousands of people.
Yes.
I don't know. I feel energized. I don't know about you.
Yep.
So it's pretty amazing.
I write a blog every year, and I was looking at my last year's blog just to see, just to educate myself where we were last year.
Yeah.
We had 16,000 people, and that was considered huge.
Yes.
This year it's over 20.
20,000. It's a lot
Yeah.
of folks
Yeah.
from all over the world, which is pretty
Yes.
fun. So I'm Will Allen. It's again great to be here. I lead product for Snowflake Cowork and Cortex Agents. We have a whole slew of announcements that we've been talking about the past couple days, and
Yeah.
I'm pumped to talk about them more with you.
And you came from Cloudflare
Yes.
not too long ago, right?
Exactly. Yeah. I'm still relatively green in this role. Been here, a number of months, but
Yeah.
the only way to start any new role is trial by fire. They sort of throw you in the deep end
Absolutely.
and give you a good life preserver, so you're not
Yes.
gonna go too far out into the ocean.
Yes.
But look, I love it. I think the things that we're working on here are just some of the most fascinating challenges that anyone anywhere
Yeah.
is able to think about in terms of how do you really bring AI to bear across your data. That's why I joined. I sort of knew that we were at this interesting sort of fulcrum, this point in time where our ability to bring the right context
Yeah.
and pair that with the right foundation model unlocks an enormous amount of value and really just transforms how we work. So I've just been, I don't know, like a kid in a candy store the past couple of months learning these things.
I have been in the data space all my life, all
Yeah.
my career. And this is the most exciting time of my entire career,
Yes.
which is over 30 years.
Yes.
Because data used to be like, they used to say data is an exhaust
Yes.
of applications.
Exactly. And
And
who
now
likes to sit in the face of the exhaust of something, right?
Yes. And now data is a fuel.
Yes.
So all of a sudden, in fact, I like to say agents before their BI dashboards and reports,
Yeah.
they are all use cases on data.
Right.
So data becomes a gold mine of
Right.
insights.
Right.
Agents are the delivery mechanism. They're the interface
Yes.
in my mind. So
Yes.
this is how I see it.
Yes.
Before we jump into some of the new exciting developments, I'm very curious, how has your transition been coming from Cloudflare? Because when I think of Cloudflare, I think edge, connectivity, security. I don't think data. And now you're in a blue blood data company, actually. Blue.
Yes, exactly. It is my favorite color, blue. I went to UNC Chapel Hill, so I'm partial
I
to this
see.
particular color.
Okay.
Look, Clever is a phenomenal company. I love the
Yeah.
people that I worked with there. And they were really, my work when I was there was really thinking about sort of how agents interact with the internet writ large,
Yeah.
right? And so what does it mean if you have a website to have agents sort of come in and interact with your website? How do you think about agent identity? How do
Yeah.
you think about agentic commerce
Yeah.
kind of more broadly? And one thing that sort of kept coming up when I was there, and as I started talking to the Snowflake team, was really understanding that to unlock a lot of value for agents, it's not just about having the best foundation model. Those are, they're amazing and phenomenal and critical, but so necessary but not sufficient. It really is about sort of unlocking what's happening across your business. And I don't know, I had this feeling that there was going to be this big
Yeah.
momentum shift, and we are now living in it. Of people sort of saying like, you need the best-in-class models. There's phenomenal progress that's happening there with our incredible partners. But to really unlock that, it has to be ground in your day-to-day context. Look, it's true on a personal level as well. When
Yeah.
I think about sort of what I'm doing on my nights and
Right.
weekends, I'm
Yes.
using all these amazing sort of coding
wow.
agents
Wow.
and telling them everything about my life.
Yeah.
And sort of deriving enormous value from that. So if that's true for me as one individual, we know it's categorically true for companies of any size and scale.
So look at this. Snowflake had a rocket ship growth in its early days. Then it went IPO, and then there were a few years when Snowflake was trying to reorient itself from being a cloud data warehouse into a data AI cloud company. Now that you've joined, Snowflake has had its best quarter ever in history.
Right. Correlation, causation, we'll never know.
Yeah,
right?
we never know. So great time to be here. So I want to start with a 800-pound gorilla in the room, which
Great.
is we spent so many years talking about generative AI in general, agents now for the last few years.
Yes.
Where are we with deployment of real life use cases of
Yes.
AI?
I think we have gone beyond the demo stage
see.
and well beyond the toy stage. And people are driving absolutely enormous value for these things. We were just doing a presentation earlier to a bunch of folks, and we're joined by one of our amazing customers. And it's so phenomenal to hear about the factory floor that he was sort of talking about and thinking about, and how in the day-to-day life there are things that the shift managers, they go from sort of shift 1 to shift 2 to shift 3. Before, all of the context between those shifts would have gotten lost, and that matters for productivity, it matters for revenue growth, it matters for safety across the board. They have automated all of that across the board using Cortex agents, using Snowflake Cowork. Being able to sort of automate that handoff period, so whatever happened in shift 1, shift 2 can actually know about it. We're hearing stories about that and real anecdotes about, again, not just demos, not just small pockets of the business, but complete transformations of how people are getting work done. And the exciting thing about it is that I think we're still at the very beginning. I feel like we are, when you're on an exponential, it always feels like it's steeper than ever. And that's what we're in today.
When you start peeling the onion, you discover all these
That's right.
connections, all these things that need to be done.
Yes.
So I want to be with you. I want to be very pragmatic and practical as to. So I have a two-part question next. I want to learn from you, what are some of the challenges that companies that you talk to are still facing trying to scale AI? And then after that, I want to see what are the lessons that we have learned from companies that have been successful in this space. So let's start with challenges.
It can be incredibly overwhelming, right? To figure out what to do next. Because if you spend any time on X, and I do, or LinkedIn, or pick your favorite sort of platform, you're going to be inundated with people who are talking about how this is the most transformational thing ever. You should completely reimagine everything, and there's a lot of truth to that. But then you sort of like log off when you go talk to your colleagues, like, well, what's next? Like, what do I do like literally today or the next day or the next day? And so there's sort of a deep, palpable sense of, I'm not exactly sure where to start. And I'm not exactly sure where to place my bets because they've got folks talking to them all across the board of saying, hey, we can solve this, and we can sprinkle some magic dust in here and solve everything for you. So I think the companies that I've seen that have been the most successful, in particular companies that are amazing enterprises that have really been foundational to so much of our economy and our life, are ones that say, let's find these problems, right? What's one particular set of problems that we have, and go really deep and solve that one set of problems. So the shift manager from shift 1 to shift 2, thinking about that, that's a sort of definitive problem that they have. How do they then sort of go in, leverage AI, all of the important data that it has access to, and really tackle that sort of one by one? You can do that for sales, you can do that for marketing, you can do that for finance, picking almost a vertical or a role, finding those problems that people have, and then really solving those problems and bringing AI to bear. And that's where I think we really come into play. So you can think about all of the work that we do across Snowflake to keep your data secure. You get all the data governance that's really foundational to it. But then with Snowflake Cowork, you can bring in the context from multiple different spots, and then you can also automate that work across the board. So you can say, okay, great, if I'm a finance team, maybe I'm running the same 10 reports every single day, instead of having me go in and sort of run those poor things, my amazing colleagues, Ryan and Billy, how can they automate that part of their job, which is a little bit of drudgery, and get back to the high value work that they know and they're really good at, which is the strategy, which is the thinking, which is sort of the interacting with those agents writ large. So I think sort of not being intimidated, first and foremost, being able to dive in and find a couple particular use cases and really hone in and solve those. That's I think a really clear path to go from this is the most transformational time ever, which is true, to going, what do I do tomorrow?
So I like this. So basically, if I were to boil it down, you're saying two things. One is don't boil the ocean. Pick a targeted use case and then focus on meeting the outcomes.
Yes.
Like, for example, if it is finance, then how long does it take you to close your books, for example?
Yes.
And in fact, isn't Snowflake using Cowork internally for
Yes.
finance, for sales?
Yes. So we have a couple of agents that,
Yeah.
that we run, and so we've done this ourselves, right? And it's no
Yeah.
better way to learn than
Correct.
build products than to really make sure you use it.
Right.
All of our go-to-market teams, and myself
see.
included,
Yeah.
even though I'm on the product side, we use one agent. We call it's the Raven agent. If you talk to anyone at Snowflake, they'll tell you about it because we're so proud of it and we use it so frequently. And it's incredibly helpful as you sort of walk into customer meetings. Tell me about this customer. What products are they using? Go into
see.
my Slack, summarize all of the thread that we've been talking about them, look across Atlassian and find any unopened sort of issues or issues that haven't been closed about this particular customer. Create this into an HTML report for me.
Oh,
And so by the time I walk into the meeting,
Yeah.
I have all of the context of what's going on. So that's one of our agents just on the go-to-market side. We have an incredible team that built that. When we first built it, it took us a little bit of time. There was a lot of learning there. You then sort of apply the same knowledge and framework to another thing, to finance. Again, my colleagues Ryan and Billy doing very similar sort of workflows by saying, okay, how do I take the things that I need to do every single day?
I see.
How do I leverage the power of Coco in either the desktop or the CLI, and then scale that across the organization, across Snowflake, using Snowflake Cowork to give the right people the right access to that data? Finance, it's obviously incredibly critical that you have accurate numbers and you don't have the wrong people accessing that data. So all of the governance stuff is absolutely table stakes there, what they're doing. And then you can keep going across different organizations. And that's one thing I love about as you're building, as a product builder, as you're building these things, you get to learn from different people who are taking the product and moving it and iterating in ways that I wouldn't have anticipated or wouldn't have expected. And that's really a fun thing to see.
That is such a good idea. So basically, take a use case, make it successful, learn lessons from that, and then apply. Just keep repeating it.
Yes.
And so, what are those lessons? Like, what are some? So we've talked about some of the obvious ones, but if we look at the bigger picture of Snowflake customers, successful companies, what is their secret sauce?
One thing that we're doing alongside of this is we are trying to codify a lot of the things that we have learned and package those together in plugins and then put those inside of Snowflake Coco and allow anyone to then access those. So we've got that. We're running that with a private beta right now with a couple of customers, and it's been really fascinating to see that sort of come out. Again, to sort of say, like, a lot of these are workflow. How did you have to understand the business logic? You have to understand the data, and then you can sort of figure out a way to sort of bootstrap an agent on top of that. So we've got some great plugins that we'll be releasing more broadly relatively soon that do just that. I think the lessons are always like deeply understanding the customer and the user, right? And so somebody in marketing who's thinking about sort of their ad campaigns, it's slightly distinct needs than what I'm looking at every morning when I'm thinking about dashboards for product health usage, and that's distinct from finance. Now you can use the same underlying technology, the same very powerful data layer, bringing the right model to the right job. You need to be able to run evals against these things. All of those things is the same. But the business logic, the workflows are going to be distinct. And so enabling people to sort of go deep and understand those is a really powerful mechanism. One of the things that we've done ourselves, and I know a lot of companies are doing, is just allowing that internal discovery. And I think it's a really powerful mechanism. Christian runs like a show and tell I think it's every week, every 2 weeks.
Really? Oh, wow.
People just showing, here are all the cool things that I'm doing, right? Here's
Christian
how I'm...
Kleinerman.
Yes, exactly.
He himself runs it.
And yes, and so you can see like, here are the cool things across the
Yeah.
organization. And so here's an engineer who's automating, part of the drudgery of their job using Coco. Things that would have taken weeks take, days or hours. And here's how my colleague Effie is using Snowflake Cowork and bringing in transcripts and combining those with Slack and all those different areas. There's enormous value across your organization.
It is such a moment for builders.
Yes.
That blows me away. When I hear about the CEO, the EVP of product, I hear coding. And they're creating, that even in Snowflake's history, you would never have expected Frank Slootman to say, let me start coding my agent.
Yes.
But this is the era of builders.
Seeing Sridhar's pull request is always amazing, right?
Okay.
And look, I think it's true. I think it's true in many different organizations today. You've got builders who are discovering how fun it is to build and the impact that you can make and the leverage that you can get as any one individual if you have the right context, if you have the right governance, if you have the right tools in place, and if your data is in somewhere like Snowflake, it allows you to sort of do these things and move pretty quickly.
So to move quickly and build agents, how is the data foundation changing? What are some of the lessons that we have to unlearn. Like, because I'm coming from way back when it used to take us a year or 2 years to build a data warehouse.
Right.
We used to launch it to the business.
Right.
And the business would say, thanks, but no thanks. Our requirements changed. We are going back to Microsoft Excel.
Yes. Yes.
And now everything's happening so fast. So I'm just curious, what transformation is the data layer seeing?
One thing Christian said this morning, which I think is a great way to think about it, is that if you're not sure what the question is, the answer is probably Coco. And I think it's a great example
we heard
here.
that a few times. Yes.
And it's just true though, right? If you think about sort of,
Yeah.
I talk to customers all the time. They're like, oh,
Yeah.
my data is in all sorts of different places.
Right.
What do I do yet? Some's in Snowflake. It's not organized.
Right.
You guys are so organized. And
Yeah.
I think the answer is usually just like, take a swing at it. We are putting so much effort into Snowflake Coco to make it easier to build these pipelines, to find the right sort of right role for the right job, to organize your data in the right way, and to really do it as automatically for you as possible. For things that would have taken you months or quarters, really you can cut that down pretty dramatically. I know I myself have experienced this, right? If I'm building demos, for example, and sort of trying to build a data pipeline, stuff that I never would have done before, I can use pre-packaged skills inside of Coco, and I can do it in minutes. It's a phenomenal experience. So I think a lot of our effort is really going into thinking about how do you bake this knowledge into Coco to make it accessible to anyone across the organization and make it faster and simpler.
How do you bake this knowledge? This knowledge, because every large enterprise has so many data systems.
Yes.
They have some data in SAP and
Yes.
Salesforce, they have Oracle, Teradata, and some data is in Snowflake. What's that magic? Like, so I'm just trying to break it down because I don't want people to think that just out of the box, you put Coco
Yes.
and you start asking questions.
Right.
And it just magically gives you the right answer. How does that happen?
I mean, it does feel a little magic, I will say at times. But as all things of magic, you have to know that there's hard work behind it and incredible engineers who are doing the actual work. And you've got to check the work. You've got to have all the right sort of safety valves and everything else that are critical there. Look, I think there's, when I think about the work that we're doing, it is about sort of baking the things that we know from many, many years and our incredible engineering and product teams, the things that they have learned oftentimes the hard way over years, baking that into skills, talking to customers, and then enabling customers to say, you know what, my context is a little different. We have this particular setup and we have this particular thing. That's great. You can then build your own skills. You can build your own repeatable workflows that say that like, hey, here's our particular setup. Every company is distinct in sort of how they do things, and that's great. You can adapt and mold these things to fit the right process for yourself. It doesn't replace good strategy. It doesn't replace all of the intelligence that we all have and the incredible people across your organization. It really is an empowerment layer to enable you to go faster.
What excites me is how we have transformed from this medallion architecture where we are constantly connecting to data sources and we have this brittle ETL pipeline or ELT pipeline. So now what I love seeing how Snowflake is federating it to different sources and especially with open standards like Iceberg.
Yes.
There's interoperability.
Yes.
And so now all this data doesn't have to necessarily move to one place because anytime you move data, there's going to be some latency, there's going to be security issues, skills are required, compliance. So now if I can access, so basically what we are saying is we are making the data layer homogeneous and then we are applying guardrails and security at Coco to make sure that although agent may have access to all the data, it should only show me the data that I'm entitled to see.
That's right. And when you're building a Cortex agent, for example, and you can sort of think about this as what's the data that I have that is sitting inside of Snowflake? What are ones that I can query via an Apache Iceberg sort of table that's sort of sitting outside of there, but it's, it's a first-class citizen? Or what are external data sources that I want to connect to via MCP? You have the same RBAC that sort of rolls through all of this when you're building that particular agent. So you can stand up, one agent or many agents as you're building sort of an orchestration framework to be able to query data wherever it sits with the same governance, with the same monitoring, with the same evals across the board. That's really foundational because you want to make sure, A, that you get the right answers to the questions that you ask. That is, table stakes for us and actually an incredibly hard thing to do. We spend so much time and effort to make it easier for our
Yeah.
customers across the board. But then you don't want to get caught in the fact of like, oh, I have some data over here. How do I get that context?
Right.
When I talk about, my colleague Effie or how I think about using Cowork, it really is about sort of stitching together this context from a number of sources. Some of it's in Slack, some of it's in Zoom, some of it's in Google Drive, some of it's in an
So
actual
it's a
warehouse,
mixture of structured, semi-structured, unstructured data.
all over the board.
Yes. So it used to be we couldn't really get to unstructured data. So
Correct.
now unstructured data is equally a first-class citizen
Absolutely.
along with structured data.
I mean, think about, and it's true for us, but it's true for
Yeah.
so many companies. They have
Right.
millions of documents that are out there, right?
Yep.
That have so much of their core
Yes.
proprietary data that's really important. If you're in, if you're in pharma, if you're in healthcare, if you're in financial services, all of this wealth of knowledge and data that they have
Yeah.
that's been historically locked away
Yeah.
inside of these documents.
Yeah.
Now you can take the structured, semi-structured, and PDFs and documents,
Yeah.
stitch those together, and really unleash that across your enterprise. And I think that's a pretty fun thing to do. And again, I notice that in my day-to-day work, when I'm sort of thinking about what products to build, what features to build, how to prioritize those,
Right.
being able to understand like, okay, here's the product usage. That's
Yes.
nice clean tables that are over here. But then summarize Slack for me. Okay, great. Let's go and look at all of the slide presentations we've done for the past 10 years. Help me understand the evolution of these things. It's kind of a powerful mechanism to stitch them all together.
So Coco is a new name.
Yes.
This cute name for Cortex Code.
Yes.
Which is for developers.
Yes.
And then Cowork, I'm trying to make sure I don't mix it up.
Yeah.
Is what we knew as Snowflake Intelligence.
Correct.
And that is for knowledge workers.
Correct.
So how? Tell us more about Cowork. What exactly is Cowork?
Well, think about how often in your day you have a question,
Yep.
whether you're a marketer, you're in finance, you're in sales, whatever part of the business that has to do with some part of your company's data. It's all the time, right?
Yes,
It's almost
right.
all of our work is
Yes,
about, what was this usage for this thing? What was the revenue? How many visitors did we get? There's some question that you have.
Right.
If you have a question that is somewhere in some data, structured, unstructured, semi-structured, whatever it is, Cowork is for you.
So is it the runtime layer? Is it a runtime agent?
And you can think of it as really the UI layer, right?
layer, I see.
And that you can sort of like build, and we've got amazing designers and product team to think about how do I build a system where I can go in every day, talk to Snowflake Cowork. It's a singular agent. It knows me. It knows what my preference is, but it also really important. It's grounded in my business context. Enables me to build an artifact, sort of a dashboard about what's going on, to automate tasks, run the same report every day at 7 a.m., send it to me by email, connect to other services via MCP. Really thinking, the way Sridhar talked about sort of the agentic control plane is exactly right. And thinking about that for the end knowledge worker, right? Where you can sort of synthesize and pull together all of this context across the board. And that's the sort of the phenomenal UI layer that we have. But many customers as well say, I love that, but I also want to meet my teams where they are. Some of them are living in Teams or they're living in Slack. That's great. All of this is built on top of Cortex Agents, which are all accessible via the API. So
This week, we've seen so many announcements. In fact, it's overwhelming.
Yes.
So I have to write a blog, and I'm trying to parse and say, how do I tell the story?
Yes, Cowork can help.
Yes, okay. I should definitely get an account. Curious, do you have a favorite? Like, it's like asking you which one is your favorite kid?
Yes, exactly. There are a couple that we've launched that I do, have a soft spot for. One is our iOS app. It's beautifully done. We've got a great team that's been working on it. It's really helpful for me as I'm, literally this week as I'm walking between meetings in different spots to be able to sort of like ask a question of our Raven go-to-market agent and have everything right there in my pocket. So beautiful app. I'm a big fan of that. The second one is our automations. The ability to run, a set of skills across a number of agents that you have access to across your enterprise that automates some part of your day-to-day work has been indispensable for me. So I have an automation running that tells me every day how people are using the products that I'm responsible for. And I love it. It really is transformational for how I work. So got a soft spot in my heart for that one.
Thank you so much for sharing your enthusiasm and your excitement. I can see it. I can hear it. It's been an amazing conversation. I can't wait to learn more and share more about all the other announcements that we're learning at Snowflake Summit. I want to thank you, Will, for joining me.
Thank you.
Until next time, everyone, take care.
Thank you. Real pleasure.
Likewise.